Hello everyone, so welcome back. So we have a question and it says what's the area of the perimeter of the polygon with the given vertices? So the question is straightforward and we like to find two things, right? So we want to find the area and we want to find the perimeter of the polygon. Since we have three vertices, it's a triangle actually. You know, we can kind of start plotting the points even though we don't really have the graph paper or maybe current plane is given. Maybe we can just do it on our end, right? So let's say this is my coordinate plane. Let's say this is my y-axis, and I'll go with this is my x-axis. Okay, so let me name these as well. Okay, so that is like 1 comma negative 2. So the x has y, and then this is, let's say, 1. This is 1, this is 2. This is my first point. I'm gonna name those as well. So let's say this is A. And then B is, if I call this is B, and this is C, 1 comma 5. So this was already 1. So then 5 will be 2, 3, 4, and 5. So it will be this point. And C is 7, negative 2. So that was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. And then negative 2. This was already negative 2. So it will be something like that. So this is actually nice because, the y coordinates of A and then y coordinates of C was the same. So meaning that they are on the same horizontal line, okay, because their y values are the same. So if I connect these two, which is going to be my one side of the triangle, that will be horizontal segment. And then similarly, we actually have the x coordinates of A and x coordinates of B is the same, which is 1. So if you connect A and B, that will be a vertical line segment, right? So that is why this is vertical, this is horizontal. So then this guy will be 90 degrees, which is good because it's kind of be easier to find the each leg of this triangle. So this is the right triangle basically, even though it wasn't like stated in the problem itself, but when you plot the points, actually it is the case. So at this point, that is negative 2, then this is 5, and then this is 7. So you can just kind of write those if you like to remember. And then this was 1 and negative 2 and 1, 5. So to find the area, it's not that hard. We can find the area by taking the base length times height, right? And then divide this product by 2. And then in our case, I can take this segment, this leg as my height, and then this AC as my base. Since we start with 1 and then we end up at 7, so this distance A to C is actually 6 units. So I can go with 6, and then this height would be 5 to negative 2, so that will be 7 units. So you can count them if you want. So that will be 7 divided by 2. That's going to be 21 units squared. So this is the area. But if you want to use the I don't know if this is formula, you actually can get 6 and 7 slightly a little bit longer way. But let me try that as my second solution, right? So if I want to go with the Pythagorean right now, because we have a right triangle, so which is why we can really use the Pythagorean. So let me go with that. So a squared plus b squared and equals c squared. So if you are wondering what I'm trying to find right now, since we already got the area, I like to find the perimeter of the polygon. And I do know this is 7 units. This is 6 units. So I need to know BC, which we cannot really go ahead and count it because it's not a horizontal or vertical line. So we need to use either Pythagorean or this is formula. So if I use the Pythagorean, the legs were this was 7, this was 6. So that will be 7 squared and 6 squared. So that should be equal to BC. square, and that is 49 and 36, so that is BC square. And if you add them, you got 85 for BC to the second power. And if you take the square root, BC would be square root of 85. So you may leave it as exact value, or you can just write in calculate, find in decimal, but that's not really what I like to do because it doesn't really ask that. So then we already know all three sides. So the answer to the question is the perimeter of the polygon, since this side was 7, and then this side was 6 units, and then the BC is root 85. So you may simplify those as 13 plus root 85, and we are done. So this is the answer to the problem. So in this case, I use just the Pythagorean to get my hypotenuse, and then I just add those three sides. But let's assume the question wasn't given in a way that the triangle was like a right triangle. So if that wasn't the case, we cannot really use the Pythagorean immediately to get my hypotenuse. Maybe we should use the distance formula. Just to kind of remind, I will use that as well, because that's also another important points that we need to kind of use it. So, but before we kind of like apply the distance formula, let's remember that. So the distance formula is just the difference of the x values. So, you know, you take the x coordinates of 2 points and square that, which will be the leg of the right triangle when you make a triangle from the grid. And then that is gonna be one minus y2 to the second power. And if you take the square root, and this is gonna be distance formula. Again, the points that we are gonna have, x1, y1. So let's say this is the 1 point on the coordinate plane, and the second point is x2 and y2. If you are given 2 points, and if you like to find the distance between these two, you may just use this formula. Maybe we should remember how to draw this as well, but in this video, I'm not gonna do that, okay? So let's take the AB, okay? So I'm gonna take the distance between A and B in our problem. So A is like 1 comma negative 2, right? So, and then B is 1 comma 5. So that should be, let me write those as well. So the A, 1, negative 2, and then B, 1, 5. So if I want to name it these x1 and y1, just to kind of see what we are doing. So that's y1 and x2 and y2. So I'll take the difference of the x's, which doesn't really matter what order you take, as long as you take the difference of the x's and square, so you should be fine. So that's my x1, that's 1. And then there's a minus of x2, that's also 1, so that should be squared. And then y1 is gonna be this number in my case, minus y2, which is 5. And then if I take the square root of this sum, I should be getting my answer. So 1 minus 1 is 0, 0 squared is just 0. And then minus 2 minus 5 is just minus 7. Okay, if you square minus 7, that means minus 7 times minus 7, which is 49. So that should be 49. If you take the square root of 49, you get 7. And if you remember, AB was already 7 because we already counted this was a horizontal line. And then we actually knew this was 7. So now we got kind of 2 different ways that, and then to prove what we got. Okay, so this is the AB. So which wasn't too bad. So let's try maybe the other one as well. Okay, so if I wanna find BC, because that was kind of a little bit challenging. So let's take this is my x1, and then let's take this is my x2. So you should get 1 minus 7 to the second power, plus you take the y value as 5 minus negative 2. So 5 minus negative 2. So you take that difference, and this whole quantity will be the square root. And 1 minus 7 is like -6. If you square, you will get 36. And then since we have minus -5, that will be +2. 5 plus 2 is 7. Square will be just 49. And you do get root 85 again, which is actually good because we already had that right here. And actually we got there. And that is confirmed one more time. And if you like to do the same for the last side, which is AC. Okay, we already know AC, which is like from 1 to 7, which was 6 unit. But let's use the distance formula as well. So if we want to take the 1 minus 7 or 7 minus 1, which doesn't really matter, I'm going to do with 7 minus 1, which is the difference of the x values. And then I will take -2 minus other -2. So that should be minus -2. And then that needs to be squared. And then there's a addition between these two, perfect square, right? So 7 minus 1 is 6. If you square, that's 36. And then -2 minus -2 will be -2 plus 2, which is add up to 0. 0 squared is just 0, right? And then that is just 6, which is what we had already as answer, okay? But if you don't like the distance formula, it's okay. But in most cases, like you don't really have the grid, or even if you do have the grid, the segments are not as straight like vertical or horizontal line. So it will be just somehow like slanted. So which is why it's gonna be a bit challenging to do the Pythagorean, even though it was easier in this case. Okay, so I hope that makes sense. And if you do feel you need more practice, I recommend you doing so. Okay, so thank you, and I'll see you next time.